The sort of rise of header bidding has really been about sort of the democratizing of access to inventory for publishers outside of the ad server. And that's really what has driven a lot of the adoption, is the ability for a publisher to go out and source demand from outside of the ad server and without having to manually manage line items in their ad server to get the most out of each impression that they have. And so what we've seen is really widespread adoption of header bidding as the preferred integration method for publishers into their demand sources. And that's been sort of huge for the marketplace for a lot of reasons. It's driven a lot of conversations about transparency. It's driven a lot of conversations about pricing models, because it's really changed the dynamic of auctions from a waterfall model where you've got each of your demand sources sort of prioritized and sort of fighting for pole position to who is ever willing to bid the most for that impression is who ends up getting the actual inventory delivered to them. And so, one of the things that we're seeing kind of evolve as wrappers become more prevalent, there's sort of two ways that they're evolving. One is there's a lot of proprietary solutions in the market, and there's obviously the open source product, Prebid, which AppNexus is fully supportive of. We believe in the value of that open source project because it has the ability for everyone to sort of participate in it. It's more open and is sort of aligned with the value of header bidding to begin with, which is that it's sort of democratizing the way that the auction happens. One of the really interesting things that we're seeing is as new wrappers are coming into market and as more publishers are adopting it, the wrapper really plays sort of two jobs for a publisher. It gets you the most access to as many demand partners as possible, and it delivers as many bids into your ad server. And so really, the wrapper is a layer that publishers shouldn't necessarily need to do a lot of work for them. It just really has to perform those two functions. And so that's kind of how we're seeing the market evolve and how header wrappers are evolving for publishers.
Great, and how is the buy side taking to all this? What's the value equation for the buyers versus the sellers in this new world?
Well, so the value equation for the buyers is that they get access to this inventory that was previously unavailable to them because of the ad server restrictions that were in place. So they now have the impression that was potentially worth more available in a more open auction setting. And so if you can bid the rate that you're willing to pay for that high quality impression, you can actually win it as opposed to someone else winning it because they had higher priority in the ad server. And so for a lot of buyers, this is a really good thing. And we're also seeing a lot of buyers who want more transparency in their supply chain. And a lot of that is from header bidding, and header bidding enables a lot of that as well.
We cover video quite a lot, and how does video fit into this, or how could it fit into this scenario going forward?
So header bidding has really taken off for display and has sort of driven a commoditization of supply there. Video and other formats are a little bit more nascent for header bidding, and I think there's a ton of opportunity there, and there's some really positive results coming from some tests. We have some publishers who are using it. We've got some demand partners who are doing video header bidding. But, those marketplaces are unique in a lot of ways because of the volume of supply and because of the value of the ad units and the value that goes into actually creating the ad units for video. There's a lot more production work that goes into it. And so naturally, those things are going to transact at higher rates, and it might take a little bit more time before we see a full adoption of video header bidding, although I think there's a lot of promise there for video publishers who want to get the most for the video impressions that they have, as opposed to having to continue to manage a waterfall.
And finally, extending a little bit of our conversation, what do you see next year in terms of the trading world from AppNexus's point of view, and where are things going?
Yeah, so I think that, again, header bidding has driven a lot of transparency pushes and auction mechanic visibility, and as well as the commoditization, which we've talked about. And so I think what that's going to mean for publishers next year as they go into 2018 is a real focus on driving value in ways that are not about creating advertising technology stacks that can play lots of fancy games with the way that auctions work and with all the different players that participate in that auction, but really driving value to advertisers and finding the right set of data to place the right ad for the right advertiser, but also in just sort of allowing publishers to focus on creating content and building really great ecosystems that advertisers want to be a part of, that create differentiation in ways that are not about the ad stack.